My name's Danielle Walker, and if you'd asked me 10 years ago what my life would look like, I never would have imagined this. Not the cold delivery room. Not the ache in my heart when I looked at the empty chair beside my hospital bed. And certainly not the look on Caleb's face when I told him I was pregnant. The face of a man who looked like I'd handed him a death sentence instead of a heartbeat. We'd been married for 4 years. High school sweethearts turned college dreamers. We were the couple everyone thought would make it. Matching tattoos, late-night road trips, whispered plans about 3 kids, and a house with a tire swing in the yard. But dreams fade fast when the people in them change. At first, Caleb was supportive. He'd rub my feet after long days, talk to my belly like it was a secret waiting to be unwrapped. But slowly, things started slipping. He stayed out later, stopped answering texts. He said work was stressful, but I could smell the perfume that clung to his shirt when he came home. Not mine. Never mine. Still, I wanted to believe we could fix things. Love makes you foolish like that. So when that little stick turned positive, I cried happy tears. I thought maybe this baby would bring us back together. Give us a second chance. I imagined Caleb tearing up, holding me close, promising to be better. Instead, he looked at the test like it was a bomb I'd just set off in our living room. It's not mine, he said flatly. You must have been sleeping with someone else. I laughed at first, thought he was joking. I'm not kidding, Danielle, he said, his voice ice cold. You've been distant for months. We barely sleep together anymore. How do I know you didn't go looking for attention somewhere else? I felt my stomach drop. He wasn't just scared, he was accusing me. And he meant it. That night, he slept on the couch. The next night, he didn't come home at all. Over the next few weeks, things went downhill fast. He stopped touching me altogether. Ignored doctor's appointments. He missed the first time we heard the heartbeat. The first ultrasound. Every milestone. Every flutter of joy, I experienced them alone. At 7 months pregnant, I came home to find a manila envelope on the kitchen counter. Inside, divorce papers. No note. No apology. Just a sticky note that read, "Don't come after me for child support. I'm not raising someone else's mistake." I sat on the cold tile floor for hours, crying so hard I couldn't breathe. I wasn't just mourning a marriage. I was mourning the future I thought we had. The father I thought my child would have. The man I thought I knew. But then I felt her kick. Strong, determined. I placed my hands on my belly and whispered, "We're gonna be okay. I promise." The day I gave birth was nothing like the movies. There was no one pacing in the hallway. No hand to hold through contractions. Just a nurse who squeezed my shoulder when I whimpered, and a doctor who called me Mama like I'd already earned the title. When they placed her in my arms, all the noise in the world faded. She was tiny, warm, and perfect. 10 fingers. 10 toes. Eyes too wise for a newborn. She didn't cry much, just stared up at me like she already knew we were in this together. I named her Ivy Grace Walker. Grace, because it reminded me I still had some. Ivy, because no matter how hard life tried to tear us down, I knew she would grow through the cracks. A week after we got home, I sent Caleb a photo of her, sleeping, wrapped in the blanket my mom had knitted. He left me on read. A month later, I mailed him a DNA test kit. No response. So, I did it myself. Took a strand of her hair and sent it in with mine. I didn't need a court order or a fight. I just needed the truth. 99.99% match. Caleb Walker was the father of my child. Period. But I never sent him the results. Why should I? He didn't deserve to know her. He didn't deserve to claim her. The first year was brutal. I went back to work 6 weeks postpartum, stacking boxes at a warehouse by day, cashiering at a gas station by night. Ivy was colicky, teething early, and allergic to half the formulas on the shelf. There were nights I broke down in the shower, quietly sobbing so she wouldn't hear me. But I never gave up. I clipped coupons, learned how to fix leaky faucets off YouTube, found a neighbor to watch her while I pulled double shifts. I sold my wedding ring to pay off the hospital bill. That felt fitting, trading a broken promise for a new beginning. And Ivy? She was the reason I kept going. By her second birthday, She could recite her alphabet forward and backward. She loved puzzles, especially the ones labeled ages 5+. She'd sit in her high chair with a plastic wrench and fix her toys, whispering, "Mommy, I build." She didn't know she'd been denied. She didn't know her father never met her. She didn't know that the man who gave her life called her a mistake. But one day she would. And I knew that when that day came, I had to be able to look her in the eye and say, "He didn't want you, but I always did. And I never let that stop you." To the outside world, we were just another single-mom household. But behind our thrift store curtains, in our 2-bedroom rental with chipped tiles and duct-taped windows, something extraordinary was growing. Not just a child, a fire, a future, a force. And someday, the man who walked away from her would realize what he left behind. But by then, she wouldn't need him. And neither would I. The early years weren't easy, but somehow, they were still magical. There were nights when I fed Ivy with the last can of formula in the cupboard and went to bed hungry myself. Days I had to choose between gas in the car and diapers. But no matter how hard things got, Ivy made life light. She was different from the start. By the time she was 3, she was sounding out street signs in the back seat. Not just pointing and guessing, sounding them out. One day, as I drove past a construction zone, she quietly said from the back, Men at work." I almost hit the brakes. At first, I thought it was a fluke. Maybe she'd seen the sign somewhere else. But then it happened again. And again. Books, cereal boxes, my work name tag, she devoured words like candy. Her daycare teacher pulled me aside one afternoon. "Danielle," she said, "your daughter just asked me why the sky looks blue, but space looks black." Then she explained refraction. I didn't learn that until college. I laughed. I thought she was exaggerating. Then Ivy came running up with a sketch pad filled with drawings of the solar system and asked, "Mommy, do comets cry when they fall?" I cried that night, but not because I was sad. I cried because I knew she was special. And I was terrified I wouldn't be enough. I started researching gifted programs. Private schools. Tutors. Anything I could do to make sure she got what she needed. But the world isn't built for single mothers working 2 jobs and living paycheck to paycheck. Applications had fees. Schools wanted records, recommendations, and interviews I couldn't take time off work to attend. And God help you if you didn't have a perfect zip code. So I made her the classroom. I turned our tiny apartment into a learning lab. The fridge became a chalkboard. The bathtub became a spaceship. We watched educational videos on a cracked iPad someone donated to the church. I'd bring home broken toys from the donation bin at work, and Ivy would take them apart just to figure out how they worked. She turned a busted handheld fan into a toy drone with duct tape and a spoon. At 6 years old. Still, I couldn't afford fancy programs, so I enrolled her in a local public school, praying her gifts would shine through. And boy, did they. By the end of 1st grade, she was helping the teacher grade math tests. At 7, she wrote a book about recycling and sold it at a school fair. She made over $200 and used it to buy science kits for her class. "I want everyone to learn, not just me," she said. By 8, she was building little machines out of scrap, automated mini fans, light-up pencils, and a tiny solar-powered phone charger. One evening, I came home exhausted from a double shift, kicked off my shoes, and slumped to the floor. Ivy crawled into my lap with her usual excitement, clutching a notebook. "Mommy, guess what? I made something to clean water." I smiled, half asleep. "That's amazing, baby." But then she showed me. She'd created a basic water filtration system, using a cut-up water bottle, cotton balls, charcoal from the barbecue, and sand. She poured dirty water through it, and what came out looked nearly clear. I stared at it, stunned. "How did you?" I whispered. "I saw a video of kids in another country who don't have clean water. I wanted to help them." I kissed her forehead, tears stinging my eyes. That night, I stayed up researching again. But this time it wasn't for tutors. It was for patents. That invention changed everything. A local science teacher saw Ivy's prototype and entered her into a community showcase. From there, a regional tech nonprofit heard about her, and she was invited to a statewide invention expo for young innovators. We didn't have money for fancy clothes, so I bought her a white button-up shirt from the thrift store, let her paint it with stars and circuits. She paired it with light-up sneakers and called it her invention uniform. At the expo, she stood on stage, barely 4 feet tall, with engineers and middle schoolers twice her size. But when she spoke, the room went silent. "I believe clean water is a human right," she said. "I'm just a kid, but kids have ideas too. This is my idea." She won first place. The prize? A scholarship to a prestigious STEM summer program and a feature in the local news. Single mom raises tech prodigy. Meet Ivy Walker, 9-year-old genius. They photographed us together. I was wearing my work shoes and a faded blouse. I didn't care. That headline was our victory lap. But that article did more than celebrate us. It woke the dead. A week after the article ran, I got a knock at the door. I peeked through the window and felt my blood go cold. Caleb, looking polished, confident, nervous, maybe, but not sorry. He held a bouquet of cheap flowers and a half smile like he thought he was welcome. I opened the door, but only halfway. "Well," he said, "looks like we've got a little genius on our hands." My jaw clenched. "She's not your we. You made that clear." He shifted uncomfortably. I think I should be part of her life now. She deserves to know her father." Ivy walked into the hallway just then, still clutching the robotic toy she'd built out of a toothbrush and copper wire. She froze when she saw him. "Who's that?" I looked Caleb in the eye. "That's nobody, baby. Just someone who missed their chance. I don't scare easily anymore. Not after giving birth alone. Not after choosing between rent and food. Not after raising a child on my own while the man who promised forever vanished like a ghost." But when Caleb came back, all slick words and forced smiles, something inside me twitched. Not fear, exactly. More like disgust. And rage, in the calmest, deadliest form. He thought he could just show up and get credit for a child he denied? He thought he could waltz into her life now that she was someone? I told him he was too late. But he didn't take no well. He never had. 2 days later, I got a letter in the mail. Cream envelope, stiff paper, the kind of legal coldness that makes your stomach turn. He was suing for joint custody. I held the letter in trembling hands as Ivy played with her circuit kit on the floor, completely unaware. The words blurred through my tears. Father seeks parenting time, requests paternity confirmation, offers financial support. Support? From the same man who left me broke and pregnant? The same man who called her a mistake? I wanted to scream. Instead, I did something better. I got a lawyer. I didn't have money for one. Not really. But I found a local nonprofit that helped single mothers. I brought every document I had, hospital records, the DNA results I'd never sent him, photos, text messages, receipts, the note he left with the divorce papers. I sat across from a young attorney named Shannon, who had the steely look of someone who'd seen it all. After reading everything, she leaned back, crossed her arms, and said, "He doesn't have a case." I blinked. "But he's her biological father." "Yes," she said. "But he's never paid a dime in support. Never sent a card. Never asked about her until she became a media headline. That's called opportunistic involvement. And courts hate that." My heart raced. "You mean he can't just claim her now?" She smiled. "Not if I have anything to do with it." The day of the hearing, I dressed Ivy in her favorite yellow dress, the one with the little planets and stars she'd drawn on herself. I told her we were going to a very boring grown-up meeting and packed her coloring book. Caleb came in wearing a tailored suit and smugness like cologne. He looked at me like he pitied me. "Still working nights?" he muttered as we passed each other. "No," I said calmly. "I work for her now." The judge was an older woman, gray hair, glasses, no nonsense. She read through the stack of documents silently, flipping pages like she was cutting through lies. Caleb's lawyer started with a speech about redemption, fatherhood, and doing the right thing. When he finished, the judge turned to me. "Ms. Walker, You've brought DNA results to confirm Mr. Walker is the biological father. Is that correct? I nodded. Yes, Your Honor. I tested when she was an infant. And he was informed? I held up the unopened envelope I'd mailed to him years ago, still sealed, still stamped. He refused to acknowledge her. He called her a mistake. He served me divorce papers while I was 7 months pregnant. Gasps fluttered in the courtroom. Shannon stood and added, Your Honor, Mr. Walker has no record of involvement. No visitation. No support. This is not a father trying to reunite with his daughter. This is a man trying to cash in on her success. The judge turned to Caleb. Mr. Walker, do you dispute any of this? He stood, voice trembling now. I made a mistake. I was scared. Young. I want to make things right. The judge stared him down. You had 9 years to make things right. And not once did you try, until her photo was in the news. The ruling was swift. Full legal and physical custody to me. No visitation. No rights. Child support backdated 9 years. He was stunned. His face collapsed into itself like a man who'd lost something he thought he owned. As we walked out, he tried to approach Ivy. Ivy, sweetheart. She stepped back, her little voice cutting like glass. You're the man who made Mommy cry. He froze. She turned and grabbed my hand. Let's go, Mommy. I want to work on my robot. And that was that. Later that night, I sat on the couch and opened the DNA results one more time. That cold, clinical paper with numbers and probabilities. Proof of biology. But biology doesn't make you a parent. Showing up does. Sacrificing does. Loving does. He had 9 years. He chose nothing. And now he had to live with that. 2 years after the custody ruling, I watched Ivy walk onto a stage wearing a lab coat she designed herself. She had tiny LED lights stitched into the seams that lit up in her favorite color, neon blue. She called it her brainstorm jacket. She was only 11. The banner behind her read, National Youth Innovators Award, celebrating the brightest young minds in America. She wasn't the daughter of anyone famous. She didn't have a trust fund or a private tutor. She had me, a tired, determined mom with bad credit and a full heart. And somehow, she had made it here. The audience gave her a standing ovation as she presented her newest invention, a low-cost solar filtration device that could be deployed in remote villages after natural disasters. It was compact, light, affordable. The science community called it genius. The media called her a phenomenon. I just called her my baby. A week later, she was interviewed on national television. The host, a well-known tech investor, asked her where she got her ideas. Ivy paused, thoughtful as ever. Well, I guess I got them from watching my mom make something out of nothing. She turned a tiny apartment into a science lab. She made being poor feel like an adventure. When people told us no, she found a new way. The host smiled. And your father? Is he part of your journey too? I felt my stomach tighten. But Ivy just tilted her head and said, I don't have a father. I have a mom who did both jobs. She's all I ever needed. The silence after that was electric. I cried alone in the dressing room, watching the screen, clutching my chest like my heart might fly out of it. She had rewritten her story. She had reclaimed it. Months passed. Ivy's invention got backing from a major NGO. She was invited to speak at international conferences. Her name, Ivy Walker, started trending alongside words like prodigy, next generation leader, STEM trailblazer. Meanwhile, Caleb vanished again. I heard through a mutual acquaintance that he lost his job and was drowning in the backdated child support. Tried to appeal, but the court shut it down hard. The judge's ruling was airtight. He had asked once, through his lawyer, to reconnect with Ivy for her birthday. We didn't respond. That silence? That was our justice. One sunny afternoon, Ivy came home from school with something behind her back. Close your eyes, Mom. I did. When I opened them, she held out a laminated plaque. To the woman who believed before anyone else did. My first teacher, first hero, first everything. This isn't my award, it's ours. It was the copy of the Innovators Award. I sank to my knees and hugged her like I was holding the world. Because I was. They say success is the best revenge. But they're wrong. Pieces. Knowing I gave Ivy the love he never could. Knowing she bloomed from the very roots he tried to dig up. Knowing she'll never wonder who she is, because I never let her forget. He called her a mistake. She became a miracle. And me? I didn't just prove him wrong. I raised the girl who made the whole world listen. Thank you so much for listening to my story. Your support means everything. If this story touched you or made you think, please subscribe to our channel for more real, powerful stories.